Tamje doji shaje rinlo doshin game do de jupun jumba de lumbu do bonje be bu shaje jabo jolo ko ja tel kundon do dum garab shirisi pemang kara jamani junga so do num yan tadun jada do kadel man nam la ko ja tel yunda sanje kundon nyam na yan kadel sanje kunne no be be to ver la men sholo so and to son do juto war jinje lo Yeah, so this morning the teaching about four thoughts that turn the mind towards the actual spiritual practice, and then the refuge teachings. So, so in that way, just we have this schedule. Then in Buddhism, that there are all these teachings from the the great compassionate master Shakyamuni Buddha all the way till to the this present root teacher, that how whole complete teachings are transmitted properly without any sorts of kind of changes and adding any words and not any subtracting anything. Everything has to be just transmitted completely, whatever it has been received by the those great masters, students of the Shakyamuni Buddha. So that is why the teaching itself is very authentic in that way, and also the possibility of just kind of maintaining its kind of freshness and the solidness, and also complete just teaching. So according to that, in generally that in Tibetan Buddhism we have four schools, four major schools, and then we belong in the just ancient tradition, which is the first Buddhism that which came to Tibet from India, which is called to old tradition. And then after that Kagyuba, that through the Marpa Mila, and then Sakya, and then Kilubas, in that way. So that which in a way the spiritual practice. And then in generally we know that in this world somehow we have so many religions, and all those religions are mainly based for the practice of spirituality, that how we can develop our spiritual not just only spiritual understanding, but also how we could to just obtain that ultimate happiness. And based on that, there are all these just religions or spiritual practice or philosophical explanations, and at the same time so many kind of belief systems. So whatsoever just the spiritual understandings are, and whatever our beliefs are, but somehow that we need to just develop that of our kind of pure qualities, pure nature, and sense of the our divine nature, that which is, within all religions, somehow it is connected to the, ultimate object of the refuge. Especially in Buddhism, where it talks about, the Buddha nature, or, divine nature, or even it can be named as Christ nature. Somehow that within ourselves we have that, potential, that how we can actualize ourselves as a, enlightened being, just a completely perfect being, fully liberated from the suffering of, samsara. And that, potential we have, and to really actualize in that way and really get into that, ultimate happiness, then we need to have, the conditions assembled, properly. And according to that, then of course each and every individual kind of, religions have their own teachings. But if you, somehow study Buddhism, and just even you engage into it, definitely, it will just help to understand, whatever one's, background is, and there is no, actually there is no any kind of contradiction in that way. Because whatever it has been taught in Buddhism, everything is related with its, reality. Reality, relative truth, and absolute truth. So whole complete existence of the phenomena has to be established within two truths, relative truth and absolute truth. And why we have to establish it within two truths? Because there is the relative reality. Everything has to depend upon reality. It is not that what we want to believe or what we wish to believe, and what we want to have, and how we like things, and how we don't like things. That doesn't just really change the reality. We have to know the reality and the reality, that relative truth. So similar like that, there is the absolute truth. So absolute truth is really profound, and in many ways it is like a kind of hidden, like a hidden treasure, that even though it is always there, it is just always there, but somehow we could not just really perceive it, and we could not experience it, we could not just really know exactly what is the absolute truth and what is the absolute reality. And because of that, then we are kind of confused, and just kind of diluted, and then kind of obscured in relation with our divine nature, with our true nature, with our primordial nature, that which is the absolute truth, absolute reality, as a kind of somehow like a enlightened being, which is there. So and that itself is the just absolute truth, and it is not a belief system, because as you somehow as you really study into it with all sorts of logical process, and with the so many different kind of examples, and at the same time just that which is relating with the kind of relative logics and relative truth and relative existence, and according to that there is a way you can just have clear understanding about what is called the absolute truth, according to the absolute reality. So so only the problem is from the beginning we are even not just kind of approaching closer to it. We are not even just having some interest into that kind of reality. We even don't have that inclination towards that absolute reality and absolute truth. because we never ever just really, kind of thought of it, and we never just really know exactly, and we haven't just kind of, perceived or experienced. And that is why just kind of the inclination, interest, and just really walking towards it just appeared, because we all got, somehow completely distracted into this kind of, relative world and relative reality and the relative, just the truth, how things are here. And then in that way, just our, kind of six senses, are become very busy with the six sense objects. What we see, what we hear, what we smell, what we taste, what we feel, and what we think. In that way, just maybe more than 24 hours, we become just very busy. And we even don't have any time, in between, just even think for a moment about absolute truth, or what is our divine nature, what is our kind of, absolute reality, and just where even there is any kind of possibility that we could just get there. And that way, just how our kind of, just the world, how each and every individual, human beings, and all these, sentient beings, how they are just kind of, constantly being busy and wondering, and then, we just go on, kind of doing all this kind of just, activity. So, then in a way, whether we just, kind of live in this world with this kind of relative reality where we feel everything is true and real, and then, kind of experiencing all these kind of, six objects of the six senses, or, we have all sorts of kind of, belief system and other kind of, practices by, just any means. These all sorts of kind of, activity is happened just because of our mind. Everything is just our mind. Whether we see something, beautiful, it is not that much really depend on that object. Because the moment we just, kind of like try to perceive, oh, this is beautiful, and then we go on conceptualizing, oh, this is beautiful in this way, this way, this way, this way, and always thinking this is beautiful and this is nice, this is good. And then you almost all the time, you try to perceive some kind of, very positive image in relation with that object. And then, that's how you just feel like, just, oh, I like this, I love this, I want to have this. And that way, how our minds kind of get attracted, and then we just kind of somehow just run after it, and that just that is also creation of our mind. And then sometimes that same object, that same person, like a moment you just think something negative, and you start looking it in a kind of just negative way. And somehow, somewhere you just don't like it. And then when you just kind of turn your mind that, oh, this is really not beautiful, this is just ugly, this is bad, I don't like this person, I don't like this object. And then when you started looking at in a negative way, then just how your mind turns in that way, after some time you perceive that you really don't like this object or the phenomena or that person. And then however that, like as a person, however that person may try to do something good, you will never ever perceive it is good. And that is just not the object, but it is our mind. How we just, kind of project certain things, likes and dislikes, attachment, just detachment, and so forth. That way, how we create our own world and our own life, where we experience all happiness, suffering, problems, just peace, and then a kind of, emotions and depressions, how we just, create in that way. All those experiences are, everything is in mind. So, so that is, an example in our relative life, how we just normally really do in that way. And similar like that, just how, this whole complete world is just somehow projected. So in that way, there is a very deep and profound philosophy, just that which can explain how everything is our mind's projection. Same like a kind of movie theater, the camera, the projector, whatever that projector have the image, and that is what is going to project outside on the screen. There is no anything else. If there is no image in the camera, anything that nothing is kind of like a photographed, a kind of image in that camera, then there is nothing to project outside. And whatever they have just grasped that image, and that is going to project on the screen. Other than that, there is nothing much in the camera. But our mind somehow, similar like that, it is like a projector, how we project things, but at the same time, our minds are, many times smarter than the camera, because our mind can change. We have certain image, and after a few minutes we think something different, and we started changing, and our projection image also can be, different. So, by any means, whether we are born in this, what is called the cyclic existence, or, samsara, or this world as our relative life, or whether we could have certain kind of realization through which we could have liberation, liberation out of all this kind of suffering, or we could be, completely liberated to attain, enlightenment, achieve that, like Buddhahood, or become a omniscient mind. Those, just everything is completely dependent on our mind. So that is why in Buddhism there is a very extensive explanations and instructions and teaching, how to train our mind. And that training of mind is just, in relation with the, just our divine nature, our divine quality, and that which try to bring, our pure nature and pure qualities of that, absolute truth and absolute reality in relation with the, relative truth and relative reality. So that is the kind of just, main importance, how we can just, really understand the, kind of the profoundness of the, just Buddhism, that how we can just, train our mind, or how we can, understand. So the training of mind, or the taming of mind, is not just some sorts of kind of, fabrication, not some sorts of, kind of like imagining something, kind of different. It is not something like, kind of all this, like modern movies, scientific kind of science fiction movies. People just, create all sorts of creations and imagination, and then kind of create all this kind of like Star Wars movies, all sorts of, interesting, or like, Back to the Future, or like, just the, future image, like, after 2010, what this our world would be kind of, going to perceive, and then people just started thinking and just kind of create an image. So that is also just production of mind, how mind just started thinking and have some idea, and then, put into certain kind of form, and then into kind of writings and books like Harry Potter. So, some may have very, very good idea, and then you started writing book, and then everybody started reading it, and then it started creating movies, and people just enjoy, and that's all. When we finished the Harry Potter movie, or that reading book, and then, oh, okay, that's kind of fun, or it's kind of interesting. And then what we really gain out of that, and what sorts of kind of, changes that could make within your life, what that makes some difference in your perception or in your attitude, in relation with your life, relative life, or in a just more kind of, spiritual way. So, so we have, including all this, modern science and technologies, that there are so many, just conditions which do try to help us to make it, just make our life better, more peaceful, more happier, try to be just, kind of like a, just enjoying, having some sort of, entertainment. And there are all these just kind of, in a way, conditions. And at the same time, that all sorts of business and all sorts of big companies and, just everybody, including ourselves, we try to create something just good, that which may help that we could have a better life and better future, and also, kind of like mainly looking for just, more happiness and more peaceful, and something that just kind of always be, just relaxed mind, and there is, less problem and so forth. But still, just, but still we haven't really found a kind of, real solution that how we can just make our life, better and more peaceful and happy with all these kind of, just equipment. And at the same time, on the other hand, it is also sometimes creating more problems, more kind of, just sufferings and worries. So, because that is also a just nature of the relative phenomena, everything just, where we look in a positive way, but not necessarily, always it is like that. Like, certain things, or like, for example, like in the media that they explain, oh, this medicine is very good for your health and this will make this and that. And then you just, immediately order and you just buy it, and when you have it, sometimes it doesn't make much better. And then, just we get confused. So, similar like that, just even we try to look in a positive way, but if it is not the reality, if there is no real truth there, not just depending upon how you try to perceive in a positive way, or how you try to just kind of, imagine or try to believe something. If in the reality there is no truth, then it doesn't really work. So, so like all this science, philosophy, and like chemistry, and all sorts of, studies which we have, similar like that, we need lots of wisdom to examine, what is the real cause of, happiness? What is the real cause of, just the ultimate happiness? And that way, just we need to have, lots of time to, kind of investigate and try to understand, and according to that, just we need to go through lots of, somehow in our life with all those experience, some sorts of research, and until we just, really get into the reality and truth, that how we can just experience and how we can just, really make difference in our life just by knowing the, actual cause of happiness and the, just peace, depending upon that, reality or relative truth. So these, just like, for example, like, just whether you believe or not, like, Shakyamuni Buddha, somebody who is, somehow, just enlightened and who have the direct perception of the relative truth and absolute truth, and with that great wisdom, and just, realizes and knows everything, what is the just, cause of, happiness and what is the cause of, suffering, and in relation with that, what we really need to do, and what, what sorts of, view we need to have, what sorts of, intention we need to have, what sorts of, attitude we just have to develop, and how we have to maintain our life in our day-to-day lifetime, and so forth. There is a just whole complete, instruction that which can just, guide us all the way to the temporary happiness and to the, ultimate happiness. So, so within all this teaching, if you, as I explained earlier, just kind of, investigating and doing some sort of research, that what is the real source of that kind of, happiness, then it will definitely come to that point. Actually, it is the mind. It will come to that point. Actually, it is really the mind. So when you really understand that, then you know, oh, I really need to work with my mind. My mind is just, the most important thing, how I can just, change my life, or how I can experience happiness and joy and peace, and at the same time, how I can share that same kind of, understanding and knowledge and wisdom to share that kind of happiness and joy and peace to others. And that way we could come to, certain kind of conclusion if we just kind of use our mind or brain. Like in the West, it is just very important, brain. Because lots of scientists also think brain is mind, mind is brain. But of course, as you know, that modern, very advanced, scientists, they already have discovered that brain is not mind. They just really found that mind is something different than the, brain itself. So, that is why in Buddhism, like Shakyamuni Buddha's teaching, that there is already what is called mind, the consciousness, something which is different from this our, kind of the body, blood circulation, and brain functioning, and so forth, which is called inanimate substance. There is all this kind of the whole external world, inanimate substance. And something different from that is the just, the mind, the consciousness, where we think, where we have some sense of, thoughts, some sense of understanding, some sorts of, emotions, and some sorts of afflictive emotions. And all those, everything that what it is called just mind. And that part of just mind or the consciousness just need that kind of just, training, how we can just, just behave properly. How we can just, train our mind, in a more, just positive way. So according to that, then, just within the Tibetan Buddhism also, there is so many, in a way, just teachings that written by all these very great, masters who already have that kind of experience and realization, and according to their realization, then they have written down all these commentaries, just extraordinary, teachings. And those, if you only study, if you study and you try to just, experience it, then only oh, it is something beneficial, extraordinary, kind of useful, meaningful. And when you are not just engaged into it, and if you are not really involved in it, then you will never ever just, see anything. Like all this kind of, like a modern kids, games. So when we are not just experiencing and we are not playing it, we are even not just interested, we don't know how much fun is there in the games. But all of the kids, just there is a game, then they get so excited, just, and then they feel it. And that is how their mind is completely drawn to it, and they doesn't care even they don't have to drink or eat. Once they have all these kind of computer games, they stuck with it. And that is just because their mind, is just kind of completely attracted to that kind of just, game and fun. And because children's minds are more innocent, they don't have a big responsibility about their life. So it is the time they can just only have fun. So, similar like that, for a kid, just there is so much, kind of excitement into that, but for a grown-up or a kind of, parent, just doesn't really feel anything that exciting there. And that is why just, sometimes parents just, just stop that game and just come and eat what you are doing. It has been so long, just if you are not going to stop, I'm just coming to stop it there. And because you don't really see anything, just important. How much that kid sees so much, kind of fun and importance. So that of the difference of mind, different level of mind, and different just kind of, object, and how it makes, kind of, difference. So, similar like that, once mind is not engaged into all this kind of, real, just authentic and extraordinary teachings, and never been just kind of, tried with that, then still just, one doesn't really just, see any importance in that. So, even though there is the kind of, reality, and that how it just really makes, kind of, real difference in one's life, if one get engaged into such kind of, teaching, and the moral part of just, kind of mind training, where, just how, in one way, how, we can educate ourselves. This our mind, or the brain, or this being, a being, how you can just make yourself more educated even through like, Buddhism. How you educate with the many other kind of, our, just schools and colleges and university courses. What we have in our relative life. And then, besides that, all about this spiritual, understanding, just we have, like, Christianity, Judaism, Hinduism, and then Taoism, and then, just Muslims, and then many other kind of, just religions and subdivisions of the religions. That which is somehow it is there, and there are just kind of, lots of people who are just somehow involved into that, but still it is not a major part of interest. And also there are lots of people who doesn't really care for any of those kind of, spiritual kind of, religious, understanding or, training. Because as long as they are fine with this relative world, then just, they think that they don't have to just think of worry about, what is just, the next. And that way, that is somehow, just the spirituality of the, kind of this, our, world, just in a way it is declining, it is just becoming less and less conscious about that. And that is why then, just our minds and our kind of activities and our thoughts about, the phenomena is just limited. Like for this life, okay, if I'm happy and good with this life, then that's fine. And we never think of what is about, the future of next life, and what is going to happen behind after that. And in many ways, just lots of people even shut down their mind. Okay, behind that, maybe nothing is existing. And if in reality, if there is nothing is existing, it is fine, it is okay. But the problem is we believe that there is nothing happening after that. And in reality, there is something, really happening in relation with your being, your consciousness, your mind. Somehow there is kind of, transmigration, transferring your mind and just reborn somewhere, and where you have again yourself being born and go through, whole complete kind of lifestyle. And if you experience kind of, happiness, joy, peace, it is okay, but not necessarily it will just, always just happen in that way. So, according to that, then, just in a way, how we can develop that spirituality, kind of spiritual, the holy aspects of the being. Within our being, we have some sorts of, kind of holiness, holy aspect of our being, the qualities of that, divine nature, and that what it is called spiritual understanding and spiritual practice. And according to that, then, just how we can understand that, how we can educate that, and how we can just, involve more into it, and how we can just have some sort of, kind of training to really experience and to realize that, just the absolute reality or absolute truth or our divine nature or divine quality. So that what it really just, focus in, kind of, Buddhism, that what is called mind training. So according to that, then in those, teachings, like based on the, like Shakyamuni Buddha's, first kind of, sermon or the first turning wheel of Dharma, where you might have heard and you might have read about these, teaching, like, Four Noble Truth teachings. And out of those, teaching in, just Vajrayana or in the Tibetan Buddhism, in form of these kind of real practice, then we have what it is called Ngondo, means, preliminary practices. Until you really get engaged into the kind of, real practice of meditation, what you have to prepare as a kind of, foundation. If you don't have a very strong foundation, whatever you try to build up there, not necessarily it can be very stable, and after some time it may collapse down, as those who are engineers and also even those who are not necessarily engineers, but we have a common sense, for all this kind of house or anything, if there is a not stable foundation, even we put it just table here, if the foundation is kind of, not really good, and then, table started shaking or something may happen or some may kind of, pierce down, and just any kind of problem is just possible. So, same like that, to really get engaged into that real practice, then the foundation that, which need to be, understood and stabilized, and has to be just kind of, become very clear to oneself. It is not like just, that in Buddhism, there is no anything that, just kind of like dictates you or commands you that, oh, you must have to believe this. There is no such thing that explains. In Buddhism, everything is taught, which is in form of teachings, explained, this is what it's reality, and this how it goes, things happen, and this what it is, just you can understand, and this is what you can just make difference in your life, and this way you can just get there, and this way you will get down here, and this way, how you can just, understand. So there is whole complete, like just, demonstration there, and, it is like just all those, great, restaurants who have all this kind of, food samples, and they put it out, all the food different samples there, and then explains, just this, and with small description. And then it is up to you which kind of, food, kind of the flavor and so forth, which you want to make your own choice. There no any restaurant says, oh, this is so good, you must have to eat this. No any restaurant just, kind of do that, because they know that not necessarily all people are same. And that is why their choices are always not necessarily same, and their wishes are not necessarily same. So that is why there are already varieties of food. So similar like that in the Buddhism, also there are varieties of the teaching and levels of teaching, how you start with this and this and this and this, all the way to the, just higher level of, consciousness and higher level of realization, and getting more kind of, pure experience. And according to that, then in the beginning, just there what it is called the four thoughts. And the four thoughts, that which helps to turn or to tame or to train one's mind towards the spiritual, understanding. So those four thoughts, like where it explains the precious human rebirth, and then the impermanence and uncertain death, and then the cause and effect of karma, the action, and then the fault of samsara, fault of cyclic existence. Just what is the fault, what is the mistake there in this, cyclic existence or in this world. If there is no any fault, no any mistake, it is fine. If there is a fault, then we need to just, correct it. And after that four thoughts, then there it explains the, the qualities of the nirvana, which means the qualities of the, liberation. And, just all the, the benefits of that, just liberation or attaining enlightenment. So in many ways, before we really engage into any sort of, like a spiritual practice, or even like, kind of Buddhist practice such as like, refuge, bodhicitta, and some sort of meditation or deity practice, that one just have to kind of, have clear understanding about that. And these are, we don't really find in our kind of, normal education, kind of, in the schools. There is nobody just explain anything about precious human rebirth. Only that in science it explains about our body. What are, just kind of, functionings and compose and all sorts of those, activities there, but never explains whether it is something precious or not. And that is why many people somehow, when they have any kind of problem, and sometimes, certain kind of problem that where they feel like, oh, they cannot fix it, and they could not find any other solution or method. And on the other hand, there is nobody to help. And then just they kind of, see that there is no way that they could do anything better. And then, where we see, even these days, how many people kind of do suicide. So it is pitiful not having enough, just knowledge, enough wisdom, understanding, something which is there, all sorts of methods and solutions and, something that can be just, done. Because everything is possible in the world. Everything is possible. So that is why they are saying impossible is only word found in the dictionary. There is no anything impossible thing in this world. Everything is possible. But first we have to know how everything is possible, which means all sorts of problems, depressions, sufferings, pains, sickness. It can be cured, it can be solved, it can be done something. There is nothing that which we cannot do anything. There is no such thing. And when people really don't have that kind of knowledge and wisdom and understanding, and then they just kind of like see that, oh, this is like, end of the world. And then just one could not do anything. So, first of all, they didn't realize that how rare and difficult even just to be born as a human being. Because they never ever have any understanding in general what is the cause to be born as a human being and what is the cause and condition to be born as an animal. What is the real cause and condition to be born in somewhere in Holy Ghost being or in hell or in heaven? Because everything according to the relative reality, relative truth, and what we see in our day-to-day lifetime and what we understand through all the way back to the beginning of the history, that everything, every single phenomenon are arisen out of the assemblage of the causes and conditions. There is no anything just suddenly miraculously just happened, popped out and existing a phenomenon. There is no anything in this world. Everything is completely dependent of those, assemblage of cause and condition. That which we see, like this hall. There are all these cause and condition. And our gardens, our fruit trees, our fields, and our cars, computers, even those, iPod music, kind of like, and the handphones, including our body, our consciousness, how everything is arisen out of assemblage of cause and condition. And that part we haven't just, studied deep enough that how we can just, have a greater view of this world, how it is being produced, how it is being just, arisen. And when we just really have a very clear understanding about that, what is the actual cause and condition of all this, phenomena, based on its reality again, based on its relative truth, and how things are happening in that way, is not anybody's belief system, It's not anybody's just kind of like, way of thinking and way of liking and way of just kind of, wanting. It is the reality, it is the truth. And that we need to study. And when we just, involved and get engaged in that way, then, whatever sorts of spiritual practice we have, we can always do better, rather than having kind of, confusions and doubts and hesitations, and then thinking, oh, if this is like this, why this is happening this way? And if this is supposed to be just, happen in that way, then why this is just, have to happen this way? We have, so many confusions in this world. And we have confusions in our day-to-day lifetime. And why we have all those confusions and why we could not really get all those clear answers is because we don't have enough wisdom. Just knowing about the reality, knowing about the relative truth, knowing about what things are produced according to the assemblage of the cause and condition, whatsoever phenomena is. And once we know that, and then we can just know more detail about specific objects, like this, flower. Maybe this is a fake flower, maybe real. So like flowers, why there are some kind of yellow, red, blue, all sorts of, and all different kinds of flower. And those all have to depend upon its own cause, seed. And then again, the condition. And that way, all those flowers are just, happening. These flowers and all this phenomena doesn't happen like how it is happening in the Harry Potter movie. Or like Jack and the Beanstalk. Just, you wish something and then next day something happens. Those only happen in the stories, fairy tale stories, in the movies, not in reality. So that makes the difference between the reality and illusion. In reality, things happen according to reality, causes and condition. And according to that, we need to know how we can assemble those causes and condition, that which can just solve those problems. Whatever sorts of problems are there, whatever sorts of kind of like just unbearable pains and sufferings or depressions maybe, if we know that kind of just the truth and reality, how we can assemble those causes and conditions to get rid of those suffering, pain. And then as we work on it, things can happen. Because it is a possible thing. And on the other hand, the nature of the phenomena, nature of all this relative phenomena is just impermanent. Impermanent. And that where it is just somehow, as Buddha taught in his teachings, as like in the beginning contents of the teaching, where he said 4 lines. Duche tamje mitaba, sakje tamje tungewa, che tamje tongshin tamewa, nyangil dewa shiwo. Those 4 lines. Did you got it? Almost. So Duche tamje mitaba, he said, all the compounded phenomena are by its nature is impermanent. Compounded of cause and condition as you look in this world. Anything that which is compounded of cause and condition is subject to impermanence. It can change. So your pain is also kind of compounded phenomena of certain kind of causes and conditions that created that pain. And your suffering and depression, obstacles, sickness, any kind of problem is also created with a certain kind of causes and conditions assembled together, and then it is just there. So it is a compounded phenomena, so it is changeable. Nothing is very concrete, solid, that which we cannot just kind of change at all. There is no anything like that in this world. And when we don't see that way, when we don't understand in that way, when we don't realize in that way, and then just people say, oh, I cannot do anything with this, and so just do something like that. And that is how they come to that conclusion, because of, kind of that lacking the wisdom about the reality, about the truth. So that what it is called, all compounded phenomena are by its nature, it is impermanent and subject to change. It is related with the relative truth and relative reality. There is no anything to just believe something. You don't have to believe, anything. And that is the truth, that is the reality, what we see in this whole world, wherever we travel. In a very, very advanced and developed country, or kind of, third world war kind of, just very, very undeveloped country, everywhere, that is the nature. And we know that nature and truth. And then the second, Sakchetam